All right, all right. I think we are live. All right, I'm trying. Remember, I've been having some issues lately going live in the group. So I'm trying something out. If you're in my group, let me know if you see me live. That would be very cool. All right. I'm not even gonna test it right now because I'll take too long figuring it out. So I'll check and see later. But if you're on there live, I want a hashtag live if you're in there and you can see this. That would be amazing. And I will check that. I will check the comments afterwards. I might be able to pull up on my phone. All right. Share screen. Oh my goodness. Hold on. Can't see my can't see my controls here. Here we go. All right, share screen. Here we go. Here we go. I hope this works. I'm going to be so excited because I know it's probably been weeks. I can't even figure out how to forward it anymore. So I'm going to have to download all of the old ones and put them up there. Anyway, all right. So today, building authentic connections online. So why am I talking about this? I have been working in LinkedIn a lot more lately. And if you're not on there, jump on there. If you're on there, send me, connect with me and send me a message on there that you saw my live and you're over there on LinkedIn too. So this goes live on LinkedIn also. Anyway, so I've been playing a lot more in the LinkedIn arena lately. And what I realize is what I feel like is it's a lot more about building relationships over there than what I've been finding in a lot of different areas. You have to get into a really good group to be able to build relationships with people, and it's really hard to find. Trying to make my group like that, but it's hard. It's a hard thing to get going on. My my paid group of clients that I have is definitely like that. It's authentic, great connections, that the people connect with each other off, not just in our group sessions and stuff. So it's really, really, really nice. And I feel like with my background, I've had a lot of experience in making groups come together. I don't know if you know or not, but I'll talk about me in a minute, but I do have a lot of experience. I taught English for a while. So in classrooms from high school to corporate, and then I still own, but a language. I don't really teach so much in it anymore, but a language company. So we still have classrooms and not physical classrooms, but anyway, trying to get people to participate together when learning a language is difficult. Why? Because people are really shy. If you've ever tried to learn a language, you know that the one thing keeping people from learning a language is themselves. Just like with building your own business, there's a lot of analogies, and that's why I talk about it a lot. But the thing that keeps people from learning a language is speaking it because they're embarrassed, they feel shy, they feel like they're not speaking. Same thing with the business. They don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to sell. They don't want to do a lot of those things. So, whether you are an introvert or an extrovert, building relationships is the easiest way to actually build your business. And it's the most comfortable way. Introverts love one-on-one, so that's okay for them. Extroverts, maybe it's a little bit easier to go into networking groups or whatever. But one way or the other, building those relationships is the way to really build your business. And trying to figure out how to do that in an authentic way. One of the things that a lot of people try to do is too much too fast. And, we all want to figure out how to do all of it and get there, further, faster, farther, whatever. We all want to do that. I get that. We all want to automate it. We all want to do this, do that, do the other. I get that. However, we have to reel it back in, right? Reel it in, figure out what is our ultimate goal. And for most of you, your ultimate goal is to have conversations, because the more conversations you have, the more people know who you are, know how you can help them or people that they know, and now can either refer you or ask you for help themselves. So that's the biggest thing. Have those conversations. You don't want to go blasting people with fake or inauthentic or salesy or what is the word that I am looking for? Bots. You don't want to go blasting people with stuff like that. And so when we look at the funnel, a funnel's like this, right? Like it's wide at the top and then it comes over here. So right here at the top, you want to get as many people in there as humanly possible. That's where you want your content to be maybe a little bit broader. That's where your messaging, everything can be a little bit broader there. So even in your connections, like on LinkedIn, I don't even put a message in there in the connections. Why? Because if they connect with me, then I'm going to take the time. If they say yes, I will take the time and put a real connection in. Same thing with Facebook. You can go generic at the beginning. If they respond, that's when you want to take the time and respond back thoughtfully and really have a great message. But on any of the platforms, you do not want that. Even if you go generic for that first one, and I get that, you don't want it to be salesy. You don't want it to be pushy. You don't want it to be anything. If you're going to leave it generic, that's okay, but leave it generic broad, not hire me. This is what I do. I hate that. I'm sure you do too. All right, so let's hop in. Building authentic connections online. All right, if you know me, you know I'm a little bit cheesy. I love acronyms, and it's just a fun way for me to go through it. It's a fun way for you to take notes. So the first one is C, clarifying authenticity. Impactful stories or successes, question mark. So when you want to talk about your business and what you're doing, if you can wrap it in with stories, kind of like I just did. I talked about how I'm qualified to talk about bringing people together in groups and creating connections because of some of my past experiences. I talked about my current clients, how we have a group and the connections that we have. I talked about my school, right? So those are some stories or successes that I have. What are some that you have? Does it have to be a testimonial? People get so caught up in this, and it doesn't. It can be past experiences. It can be anything that builds your authenticity and your credibility, right? What kind of stories or successes do you have to build those? And this is when we're connecting with people. So it doesn't mean shove it down their throat. It doesn't mean it has to be the first thing out of your mouth. It just means if you've got some of these, I don't want to say like sitting next to you, like, oh, what am I going to say next? I don't mean it like that. But if you can take time, once a week and write down some stories. I like to say once a day, and I preach it, but I don't do it. So I hate to say it out loud, but this is my ideal way to do this. But write a story every day of something that goes on either in your business or in your life, and write some keywords with it. How could you use that story later? Those are great stories. And we're all about the reels and the short form and the long form. And when you're doing speeches, everything, every single thing that we do right now needs a story to go with it. So the more stories that you create, the more ways you can bring that in. And so if you have stories or successes that you can bring in as you're speaking to somebody else, keep in mind, one of the things that you want to do when you're speaking to people is relate to them. So you don't want to be sitting there. We're going to talk about this in a minute, but you don't want to be sitting there just thinking, okay, what story can I say next? That's not how you have a conversation, right? A conversation needs to be like a ping pong table, back and forth, but it needs to flow, because if you slam it, it's going to go right off that table, right? It's going to go over their head, off the table, whatever it is. Okay, so maybe you're like, if it bounces and then goes off the table, I get a point. That's not what I'm saying. It's not about who wins, right? They lose. When you bounce it and it goes off the table, they lose. That's not what you want. You want win-win, right? Back and forth, as smooth as possible. You never, ever, ever want to get it off the table. You never want somebody to lose, even if you're selling. Even if you're selling. Why? Because you don't want to talk somebody into something. You don't want to have like buyer's regret afterwards, right? You want them to know this is like where I need to be. This is exactly what I want to do. I cannot wait to dive in. And once they dive in, you want them to want to stay in, right? And so through that, you want it to be as authentic as humanly possible. You want your stories to be real, your successes to be real. So you don't have to make stuff up. You have an entire lifetime full of stories and successes. It doesn't have to be this particular business. It just needs to bring it all together. All right, so clarifying authenticity. You want to bring in stories, but when you're at the beginning of a relationship or a conversation or anything like that, you want those stories, again, to go with what they're saying. You want to bring them in casually. All right, opening up online. We're going to spend a minute here. So sharing personal stories that resonate. I love it. I hate it. It depends. One of my favorite answers, right? It depends. So I love this and I hate this. I love it because it's so, so, so powerful. And I hate it because so many people do not understand what this means. So I'm going to say this first. It's business. This is business. First and before and above all else, can you form great relationships and friendships that you will have for a lifetime? Absolutely, 100%. But where does it all start? With business. I do not want you to start thinking personal first. So I sound kind of crazy and harsh when I'm saying that, but let me explain what I'm trying to say. I always want you to have business at top of mind. And the reason I want you to have business at top of the mind is, what is your point of being there? Start relationships? Yes. But ultimately, business relationships, to sell people, to have those people refer you to other people, to be able to collaborate with somebody. Maybe it's to have them for dinner later in life. Okay, but it all starts with that first piece of business. And to do that, we want to remember who we are and who we want, how we want people to see us. We want to be helpful people, helpful people. Does that mean you have to show yourself in the Lamborghini and at the beach at all times? Okay, most of my pictures are at the beach, but I live here. And that is my happy place. Okay. What I'm trying to say is, you can talk about failures. You can talk about things that go wrong, but not to get people to feel sorry for you, not to get people to commiserate, like, oh yeah, me too. That's, we don't want to bring them down. We want to bring them up. How do we do that? You help people. It's who you are. You are an expert in something. So even when you're bringing in the not so happy moments, the moments maybe that were pivotal, what you also want to bring in, yes, and right, what you also want to bring in is how you handled that back then. If you're in the midst of the worst point in your life right now, I'm going to suggest that's not what you talk about. Talk about those other times that you got through them. Talk about those other times that you got over them. Unless there's a reason that you need to bring it into your business, unless there's a reason that it's a part of what you have to bring in. And the reason I'm saying that is, you don't want people to feel sorry for you. You want to help them. You're not bringing them down to where you are. You want to bring them up. And it doesn't mean fake it that you're happy. It means talk about the successes. If you're not happy right now, talk about then, right? If you're happy now and you want to bring up those failures or the other things, then talk about those, bring them up and tell people how you got over them. How can that help them? So share those stories that resonate. Yeah, God, that happened to me too. You know, one of the things is, for example, we're all entrepreneurs, are very distracted people. That's relatable. You can totally talk about that. You're not bringing people down by saying, yeah, I'm totally distracted too. However, if you say, I don't get anything done on a day-to-day basis because I'm so distracted, you know, I just sit around all day long flipping from one to the other and I never get anything done. Is that helping anybody? No, it's not. So what are you doing to get past that? How are you, trying to get past it? Or if you are past it, what are you doing? So bring in those positive sides as well. I mean, I talk about all the time, how I'm feeling right now. I'm not saying don't do that, but bring in the positive side. What are you doing to get past it or move forward or get over it or that type of thing? Bring it up. Always end on that high note. Bring it back up. So when you're opening up online, bottom line to open up online is end on a high note. Always remember that you're here to help people. You're here to be the expert. If people look at you as if they need to help you, you're bumping yourself out of the position. You're doing it to yourself. And can you get a lot of followers doing that? Yes. Can you get a lot of interaction? Probably. But is it the interaction that you want? Is it the people that you want following you? No, it's not. I can guarantee you it's not. And when are you going to figure that out? When you cannot figure out how to monetize it and you can't make a business out of it. It's a business. It's a business. And some people might say, hey, you want to have a personal account, go over there and have a personal account. I'm going to say, if you do that, make it private. Make it one that not anybody can see except for the people that you want in there. Why is that? Because your life is now is now public. If somebody Googles you, will they find it? If they can, don't put it out there. Don't put it out there. My mom used to say when I was little, if you don't want your grandmother to see it, don't write it. Because, like when you're little girls and you write like these notes, and my mom would always find them and I would get in trouble for them. So she would say, when you write, remember your grandmother. Don't write something that you don't want your grandmother to see or read. And so that always reminded me, when the cameras came out, when people started taking pictures, if I didn't want my grandmother to see that, I didn't take it. Why? Because it's not how I want to represent myself, right? You need to think of that at all times, So if you see pictures of me, for example, if you see pictures of me out at a club, you're like, what? You got a club? Every now and then. But back in 10 years ago, I went to a lot more clubs, right? Every single time I saw a camera come out, I did a 180. Why? Because that's not who I am. That's not how I want to represent myself. Did I go? Yes. But did I do 186 other things that week? 110%. And I'd rather you see all of those. And I'm not saying that, you can't show those things or do those things, but how do you want to represent yourself? How do you want people to see you? I was teaching at universities. I didn't want my students to see me out at a club. So I would go to clubs that they weren't try at least to go to clubs that they weren't at. Does it mean that they didn't think that I went out? Okay, whatever. But it's how I wanted to represent myself. And I wasn't faking it, right? If you see pictures of me, I'm not faking what I'm doing or when I'm at. I'm just showing you what I believe should be the online part of that picture. All right. Anyway, I hope that made sense. And I hope you don't think I'm crazy. If you have questions, comments, drop them below, send them to me. Is this going to be one of those ones we're going to talk about in a second? I'll tell you that in a second. Hold on. Navigating tools for transparency. All right. So on this, for example, Elevate and Engage. If you ever want to jump on here with me live, because I can't figure out how to do my live streams, I have this on Zoom. So you can be in the back end with me. Whenever I'm done, I get offline and then I hang out with whoever's on the back end and we chit chat back there. All right. So Instagram live, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube live, interactive webinars like this. And typically I do the training and then at the end, I'll do the Zoom. But sometimes you can do interactive where they can ask questions the whole way through, which I also do, just not on Elevate and Engage. All right, going on. Oh, I have a webinar coming up at the end. You'll see where that one is interactive. It's Zoom only. So tools for transparency is just doing it live, right? When you go live, you see me fumble and mumble every time I do Elevate and Engage. Why? Because it's live. And trying to get into all of the 86 different things that I have to get into before I can get on here takes me a minute or 10. All right. Neutralizing. Uh-oh. Are you guys taking notes? Are you guys taking notes? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. This is the second N, CONN. Neutralizing negativity. This is the one that I was talking about a second ago. If you have some negativity to say about what I was saying, what I was saying about not wearing it on your sleeve in public, my mom used to say, we do not air our dirty laundry in public. And I believe in that. I truly do. It doesn't mean I'm like a totally different person. If you met me in public, you'd be like, oh my God, you're exactly who you are. I am this person. You just don't know every single thing about me. Like, whatever. You just don't. That's normal. That's life. That's not me, not being transparent. Right. All right. So how do you handle negative feedback or online criticism? Let's stop here for a quick second. So if you've got some negative feedback for me over there on that last one that I did about hanging it all out, I'd love to hear it. What I'm going to suggest to you is if you have negative feedback, you can put it on that post. Don't stress out. If you already did, don't delete it. But if you have negative feedback, think about your intentions. If your intentions are grouchy old man intentions and you want the whole world to see it, put it in the post. If your intentions are to help somebody to become a better person or to do something in a better way, DM them. I see this all the time. And I'm like, why would they put that publicly? Like, don't put that publicly, even if it's like correcting somebody's spelling. Don't put that publicly. Send them a private message. If you're truly trying to help somebody, send a private message. Don't out them for the public to see. That's not helping anybody. Number one. From the other side, if you're the one on the receiving side of it, the first thing I want you to think of is, woohoo! People are seeing what I'm doing. People are seeing what I'm doing. Yes, yes. Pat on the back, pat on the back. That's the first thing I want you to think of when you get negative feedback or online criticism. The second thing I want you to think of is it true? Is it true? So we're gonna go both ways here. So if it's true, yes. Or if there's a piece of it that's true, even if it's a sliver, I want you to take it, write it down, go through the emotions, and then go back later and revisit it. Why not revisit it? Why not visit it right now? Because you're emotional. I want you to get it all out of your system as much as humanly possible. If when you go back to it, it still makes you emotional, okay. Sometimes it's still going to make you emotional. But try to get it out of your system as much as possible and then try to look at it from a third-party point of view. Okay, if it's true and you know it's true, you're emotional because maybe you feel bad about it. Maybe you're like, oh my God, yeah, I totally need to up my game, whatever it is. Whatever it is. So if you need to apologize to somebody, maybe that's your next step. If you need to do an online apology to the world, do it. If that's what makes you get over that hump, then do it. If it's just something you need to maybe start thinking about doing differently or better, then jot down some ways that you can do it differently or better in the future. one way or the other, even if it's yes, you're going to figure out what your next steps are. Negativity, next steps. Negativity out the window once you get those next steps. Okay. Once you get the next steps, this goes out the window. That's done. You're here. There's nothing left to do over there, right? There's nothing left to do over there. This is a skill, and you need to practice it as much as humanly possible. The first time it happens, it might take you months. The second time, weeks. You know, what if the third time it's days? What if you went from months to days? Woo, that's awesome, right? Maybe it takes you a while longer than that. You know, maybe your jumps aren't as big. But what you want to do is get to the point, or strive to get to the point where when you get that negativity, it goes out the window the minute you do that next step. If it is yes, we're still in the yes, right? So if you have some responsibility to take, if it is something that yes is true, what can you do? How can you do? Then another thing that you can do, another thing you can do is contact somebody that you trust. Somebody you trust, and somebody who knows about what you're talking about and is successfully doing the thing that you're not, or doing well the thing that you're doing poorly, or something like that, right? Contact that person. Don't contact the person that has no idea what you're talking about. That's not going to help you at all, right? So coach, think mentor, think, somebody like that. It could be a peer that just happens to do this, really, really well. Contact that person. Say, hey, I need a favor, an opinion, a second look, whatever. Have them help you figure out what those next steps are if you can't figure out yourself, or if you want somebody to look at your next steps and see if they want to add, delete, or, change those at all. Always go with your instinct, your gut. That is the best place to be, but you can get some outside help as well. I think that's powerful. I think that would help a lot. So what if it is no, like they're totally off, they're totally wrong? You have some options. One of those options is to go berserk. Don't recommend it. Wouldn't even say it for a second, right? So always take the deep breath. Always take the deep breath. Maybe write down your options. Hey, I could, be a complete idiot. I could go live and post about it or whatever. In most cases, I'm going to say that's probably not the best option. Maybe it is for you. We should have like a poll on when Erica's going to yawn. It's probably not the best option ever. Unless there's a reason and a why that you're going back and saying something about it. And my thought would be, is your reason or why to make yourself feel better? Is your reason or why to teach that one person a lesson? Or is this a way to help your audience? Because if it's a way to help your audience, then I think you can go public. If you want to teach that person a lesson, what do? We DM. We do it on the back channel. We do not do it publicly. All right. So negative feedback, online criticism. If it's no, you're going to decide, are you going to react? Are you going to say something? And don't use react in your thought process, right? What are you going to do next? Because react means immediate reaction, right? Think immediate reaction. Don't want to do that. You want to decide what to do next. So those are your options. Figure out what you want to do next and ask yourself some questions. And they may be hard questions. Is this for me? Like, is this just making me feel cool or better or whatever, And if it is that who you want to be and how you want to stand up? Maybe it is. For me, it's not. It's not. It's not that important to me to look cool for the world. If it is going to ruin your reputation, if you don't say something else to the opposite, then maybe you want to get out there and say something to the opposite, right? How can you do other things? So think about all of that. And think about their reasoning. Why did they do it? Is there a way to back channel and see, is there some underlying reason? Do they need a little bit of help with something? Maybe they need some clarity. Is there something else you could do to turn that situation around, to make that negative a positive? Is that always a helpful place? No, ask yourself some questions. But sometimes turning that negative into a positive might make that person your biggest advocate, your biggest fan, the person who goes out and tells the rest of the world what an amazing person you are. You just never know. So, is there an opportunity in that negative space to either help that person, to convert that person, even if it's not into a paying client, but into an advocate? Is there some sort of an opportunity that you could use it to help the masses? And think about how you do this. Do you block out their name? Right? Yes, always. Well, maybe not always, but hopefully most of the time, yes. If you want to use it as a learning opportunity, then I would definitely block out their name unless there's a reason not to. If it's truly coming from the heart and truly a learning experience. All right, so think about how you neutralize that negativity. If you find that you are reacting to some negativity, I want you to, but my mom's favorite thing was pinch your butt. Pinch your butt. What does that mean? That means like stop yourself. Stop yourself, right? Get a hold of yourself. That's kind of what pinch your butt means. Get a hold of yourself as much as humanly possible. So if you can stop yourself before you do it, do it. If you did it and you can delete it, delete it. If you did it and you're not like, I'm not deleting that, but I'm not going to stay in this, ping pong negativity battle. Remember, that's not where you want to be. However, if you have a larger audience, a lot of times your audience will jump in and help you. Now, there are a couple of ways you can handle that. You want them to help you out. Yes. Do you want them to, kill this person? No. Right? So try to keep it civil, try to keep it a little bit short. Always remember that who's that? There's like this bad boy basketball player that gets all this terrible publicity. Anyway, some people believe even bad publicity is good publicity. Why? Because it gets your name out there. So in this case, depending on what it is, and depending on what happens next, but if people are defending you, then yes, the algorithm sees that back and forth as, wow, people are really loving this post. Even if it's, negativity, people are loving the post. So you have a choice. Delete it. Let the people respond to it. I'm a big just delete it. Like, I don't even want to see it. I'll just delete it. I don't answer it. I don't try to contact them. A lot of times it's, bots or that one lonely old man that has nothing better to do in life and is never going to be a client anyway. Think about that and how you want to handle it. Anyway, on with this topic, but neutralize that negativity. Remember, the main thing you want to do with negativity is what? Get to the next step and swipe it right out of your focus, right out of your memory, right out of everything. Swipe left. All right. Who is Eric Leary? So we talked a little bit about who I am, right? With owning a language school. So, one of the things about me is I'm Panamanian. I am half, I said Latin the other day and somebody corrected me and said, you should say Hispanic, whatever. I'm from Panama, Central America, born and raised in the US, but my mom was from there. So yes, I'm half Panamanian, half Latin. These are some stages I've been on, some places I've been, some people I've spoken with, just things that you need to keep track of along the way and start keeping track now. I have a lot that aren't I don't even have pictures of. I'm not a big selfie kind of person. All right. So been doing this since 2007. That's probably critical to know. Helping businesses and entrepreneurs and coaches just like you. All right, get themselves out. I mean, get themselves out there, show up, figure out the clarity in who they want to speak to, the messaging that they want to use to speak to those people. All of that is very important, right? If I talk a lot about being distracted and I'm talking to an accountant, is he understanding me? Am I relating? Nope. That doesn't relate much, right? He's probably not a distracted person. But when I'm speaking to the coaches and the entrepreneurs, they get that. All right. Moving on. So CONNE. Ooh, this is ugly. That says trust and relationships. So on my end, these words, when I do them in Canva, they look so much prettier, but they have a back on them that for whatever does not save with it. I keep meaning to not do that. But they look so pretty and I love them. They have like, this has like a pink back on it, so you can't see that woman as much and you can see the words, but here you cannot. All right, engaging with empathy. I would say the biggest thing to know about how to engage with empathy is the number one skill to have as a business owner. Listen. Listen, you want to listen to people at all times. Believe it or not, the more you listen, the more people think you are amazing, even if you're not saying anything. So listen as much as humanly possible. Listen to their words. Having empathy means you really can feel it with them, right? So I feel you. I get you. Those are the types of things people want. Those build trust and relationships. And engaging with empathy means also using that. If you hear people saying things, use their words. It's kind of a copywriting trick, but it works really, really well. And so the more people you speak to, even one-on-one, the more people you speak to one-on-one, the more dialed in your overall messaging is going to be. Why? Because you realize how people are saying what it is that you're talking about. You realize the words that they're using, how it's affecting them, how they're saying it. So one-on-one, have as many conversations as possible. Extroverts, you too. You still need to have those one-on-one conversations. And I know that a lot of coaches teach you how to create all these funnels, how to have all of these questions in your, if you use Calendly, in your Calendly, so that you're not meeting with every person that signs up. It depends. So my suggestion to you is, in the beginning, until you're having, too many conversations to handle a week, you leave it as frictionless as possible. That means no questions on the front end. That means no funnels, no nothing. You leave it without friction, no questions in your Calendly, nothing. Why? Because you want to have as many conversations as possible. You're dialing it in, you're figuring it out still. You need to get all of those people. And it's going to take you longer, right? You aren't dialed in on how you are speaking to them. You aren't dialed in on the stories you're telling them, on what's resonating with them on the calls. You're not dialed in on any of that yet, right? You're not dialed in on your messaging outside, what's bringing them in. So have as many as humanly possible until you can't. That's when you start adding the extra bits of friction, like those added questions, right? You're not fancy. Don't act like you are making, six-figure income when you can't cross that word, delete it. When you are not at the moment yet making six figures, right? Don't act like you are. And by that, I mean, in this particular instance, I mean, adding all that friction that they need because they're that busy. You don't yet, because your number one job is conversations. So You've got 8 hours a day. Have those conversations or do things to create conversations or start conversations, whether that's content or commenting, any of those, starting conversations. All right. So engage with empathy, understanding people. And the easier way to do that is to talk with more and more people so that you do feel their empathy and get their point, where they're at, the gist, right? CONNEC. If you haven't guessed it by now, you aren't going to. All right. Consistency in communication. Consistency in communication. So consistent messaging and visual branding. You do not want to be all over the map. So I'll give you a great example. I am bright. I am bright and happy in my color choosing as much as everything else. In my font picking, in everything that I do. I love variety. I love to just try and do. That's who I am. Do not be that person in your messaging and your visual branding. How do I know that? Why? Because that's what I was doing. I was all over the map. So right now, my main colors are the dark pink, the dark blue, and a bright yellow. And then my background colors are this light pink that you see on this page, black, white, gray. That's it. Every now and then I add in, there's like this burgundy that I'll add in every now and then. But anyway, you get the point. So you really want to keep your main colors, that pink, blue, and yellow, as the main colors. I had purple, I had green, I had literally a crayon box of every bright color. And I was all over the map. So every time you saw me, it looked different. If you pulled up my Instagram, I am not one of those people who has the patience to map it out and make sure it looks all I'm not. I'm just not. My guess is most of you aren't either. If you are, kudos to you. Definitely go in there and do that. You don't have a problem with your visual messaging. I mean, your visual branding, because you're that type of person. I'm not. I am also not the type of person to make everything the same. That drives me insane also. So how do I mix it up? Well, I keep those 3 colors and then I just change, I change other things. So I keep the same 3 colors. I have 2 main fonts that are the same in almost everything that I do. Every now and then I'll put another 2 different ones in there. So I basically have like four fonts that I use over and over and over. Okay, you know me. So sometimes I throw in, but I have very few extra ones that I'll throw in every now and then, but consistent in how I do them. They're always crisp, clean, clear like this, which I think is a little bit of how I am. I use almost no cursive or anything like that. Number one, it's not clear to see. I want it to be super clear. I love that. So your visual branding, just decide what it is and go for it. Write it down so that if you have a VA today, or if you're going to get one tomorrow, write it down. I will have a VA. When you're ready for that, let me know. I've got an agency that I can help you with that. But anyway, your visual branding and your messaging, you want it to be very clear. Write it all out. Write it all out. So messaging, you're like, what is the consistent messaging? Well, I'm going to tell you, it's your tone, your voice, who you are, how you say it. All of that is in your messaging. So if all of a sudden I wrote a bunch of stuff that was like really, really formal, you'd be like, okay, who's writing for her? This is totally not her, right? I'm superlative queen because that's my personality. It's how I speak. Well, that's how I write. You know, you're going to see one too many exclamation points in how I write. Core brand values. That's also part of your messaging. Don't go against who you are ever, period. That's a non-negotiable. That is a non-negotiable. Always stick to your core values. You should have your core brand values as well. Write them down. Remind me to do one on mine. If you want to see it, if you want to see my core brand values, type magic. Yes, cheesy Erica. Magic spells out my core brand values. So I have little little thing. Oh, it's in my old brand color, so I need to redo it, but it's magic. And by my old brand colors, I mean my crayon box of everything. I just looked at it the other day. We were talking about that with my clients. Anyway, if you want to see it, drop magic. All right. Next one, last one. I'm not even looking at the time, so for way over. So sorry, this is the last one. T, transforming connections into community, thriving online community. So at the beginning of this, I talked about community, and then we talked about creating one-on-one relationships throughout, right? But, and we also want community. Community is huge. So think about those one-on-one relationships you're building when you're in somebody else's community. How do you want to show up? How do you want them to show up when you're in your community, right? How do you want to present yourself? Make sure that your core values are showing up. Make sure that you're handling negativity how you would if it was happening to you, if it's in your community. All of those same things for CONNEC, you're going to use in your online community. And that is how to create the best community, is to have people who are engaging, that are in your, I don't want to say your circle, because they're not necessarily in your circle, but they're in your wave. So if your circle is here, right, you drop that pebble, and that's your circle, and then it circle, 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 circle. That's your online community, those outer circles, right? So to create that thriving online community, use all the rest of those things. So in our group, I'm going to put a question. I'm going to post a question after this. I want to know, what is your number one favorite of these? Which one are you going to test, try out, or use next? And if you have a story for another one, drop that also. All right. We are finishing authenticity in action, building bonds beyond the screen. So that's how you are going to have the people that you have dinner with in the end, right? But you're going to start from a place of business, of brand, of values. All right. So clarifying authenticity, opening up online, navigating tools for transparency. Let people get to know you. Neutralizing negativity. Think about that first letter, first word, neutralizing, right? Or negating, engaging with empathy, consistency in communication, and transforming connections into community. So which one is your favorite? Take your screenshot. Which one's your favorite? Which one are you going to start doing right now? And which one do you have a story for, a piece of advice? All right. Coming up, the power of storytelling and marketing. Oh, we talked about that a little bit today, right? Always, always, always. So Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, and UKers, I added you on here, 4 p.m. UK time. We have one more thing. I hope I put it on here. I did. Strategic Success webinar coming up Wednesday, July 31st, noon Eastern and 5 p.m. UK time. So an hour after this one. All right. You have an amazing rest. And that's Wednesday, not Thursday. This one, Elevate and Engage, is on Thursdays, every single Thursday. So have an amazing rest of your day. Make sure you jump in the group and leave us your responses. I will see you later. Can't wait to see if this was live in the group. Hopefully you left me some messages. #live or #replay. Ciao, ciao.